Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob.
Good evening. We're going to be discussing in this particular Connect Group session the idea of moral excellence, because that is such a critical aspect in our lives as Christians that Peter makes it the second thing in this series of building blocks of Christian virtues that are to be found in our lives. Faith is the baseline, okay? We build off our faith. We've already talked about that. And morals are incredibly important. We discussed the need for moral guidelines and moral strictures in our life last week. This evening, where I want us to put the emphasis and where the discussion needs to go is on excellence, okay? Because I think that's where we face a real challenge, perhaps even a crisis in this country today. Let me put a couple of terms up here and talk about them a little bit with you, because I think they kind of delineate the challenge that all of us face today. In the last 30 or 40 years, a term called practical atheism has begun to be popularized. Now, what do we mean by practical atheism? We're talking about a person who claims to believe in God, but they live like there is no God. Someone that says, oh yeah, I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, but if you look at their life doesn't reflect that at all. And so they claim faith, they claim belief, but they live as if they have no faith or belief. They live as if there is no God. Thus, practical atheism. Hey, it's a big problem today. A second problem finds its roots in more ancient terminology, and that's the term hypocrisy. A hypocrite, back during the days of the Greeks, was an actor. It was a person who played a part. They were a hypokritos. They were a hypocrite. But it wasn't a dishonorable thing. It simply meant that he was a person and they were acting like they were somebody else. But today, we have a real problem with that, don't we? Because there are a lot of people who claim to be Christians, but if you look at their life, you see they're just playing a part. They're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. What we're challenged to do as Christians by Peter is to strive for moral, and again, I want to emphasize moral excellence. Because there are too many people today who are settling for kind of, at best, moral mediocrity. And that's not going to cut it. That's not going to be good enough. Not in this day and age. Not if we're going to survive and thrive. We've got to have moral excellence. Now, I want to argue real quickly, just for a couple of minutes, that moral excellence is super important because it brings about a couple of things in our lives that are just critical. The first thing that moral excellence is going to produce for us is that moral excellence is going to protect us. And I don't think there's any doubt that we recognize and understand that we need to be protected from the evil one. I pray every day, I'm sure you do, I hope you do, for God's protection for me, for my wife, for my kids and grandkids, for those that we love, that they'll be protected from the evil one. Moral excellence provides that protection. Moral depravity doesn't provide it. Moral mediocrity doesn't provide it. Only moral excellence is going to provide that protection from the constant attacks. Paul in Ephesians chapter 6 will call them the flaming darts that the devil throws at us. And by the way, in Ephesians chapter 6, remember that Paul will talk about how we're to put on the full armor of God. From the fact that our heads have on them the helmet of salvation to the fact that our feet are clad with the gospel of peace. I mean, we are fully protected, fully covered. And he says that's the way you need to live every day. And that's absolutely right. Because we need to protect ourselves from the evil one. And the fact of the matter is that if we pursue moral excellence, we are going to find a beautiful protection from a lot of the things that the devil would use to ruin our lives. Listen, if you're not involved in illegal drugs, you don't have to worry about drug addiction, do you? You don't have to fight that horrible hag that hangs on to so many and destroys their lives. If you're living a sexually pure life, if you're not involved in premarital or extramarital sexual activity, then you don't have to worry about a lot of physical problems that a lot of people are having today with sexually transmitted diseases. You don't have to worry about busting up your marriage, busting up your family because of unfaithfulness. I mean, you avoid so many problems. You protect yourself and others when you live a life of moral excellence. That's very important. And secondly, it also allows you to be a blessing in the lives of others. Because you see, being a virtuous person, being a person of moral excellence, isn't just about what you don't do. It's also about what you do. And you see, if you live a life of moral excellence, you free yourself to be able, think about it, to bless the lives of other people. Because you're not having to deal with all this stuff in your own life that has you tied down and tied up as you try to dig out of this morass of sin. And so protecting yourself isn't selfish. Protecting yourself is freeing you to bless other people and make a real difference in their lives. Think about it for a second. When the horrors happened in Houston, and when the hurricane struck in Florida, whether you were dealing with problems like that or other horrible natural disasters and sometimes man-made disasters that occur, brothers and sisters, who are some of the first people on the scene? Aren't they Christian people? People of high moral character, people of moral excellence, who, because they're not all tied up in trying to fix the mess that they've made for themselves, are actually able to take the time and spend the money and invest the energy to help others who are desperately in need. I don't mean to sound mean, I don't want to, but I'm just being real here. The trucks, the thousands of trucks that are being driven down to Houston and over to Florida that are filled with household needs and with food and with clean water and blankets and all the other things that these people are going to need. The tens of millions of dollars that are being donated by so many people. So much of that. Those trucks are being driven by Christian people. This is being done by Christian organizations. This is being accomplished by people who are striving for moral excellence, and in the process of that have freed themselves to be able to bless the lives of others. You don't see a convoy of drug addicts driving down to help the people in Houston. You don't. You don't see a bunch of gangbangers climbing on a bus so they can ride to Miami and help out the people who are in need there. They're too tied up in their own messes. It's people who are seeking to honor God and who are seeking to honor His will in their lives that are freed to make a difference. That's why moral excellence is so very, very important. And so in the discussion this evening, please keep these thoughts in mind as we share with each other about ways in which we can reflect this moral excellence and grow it in our lives. God bless you.
Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob, oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob.